For those of you who have been following know that I have just recently relocated from North America, from Canada, to Spain. And in this video, I want to be as transparent, as realistic as possible into how exactly that went and what I learned from it. First and foremost, I would definitely not advise this to everyone. You have to be cut out for this. And certain people are good where they are, and there is nothing wrong to being born and raised and get old in the same city and being surrounded by the same friends. Because let me tell you the reality of things. You feel like you are a person with no home when you move countries. And especially for someone like me, because this is my second immigration. We immigrated to Canada when I was 18. So this is the second time relocating. Even if it's back to Europe, you will feel to a big extent like a person with no home. Being in a new country and not knowing the language to the full extent and not understanding exactly how it operates, how it functions, how pushy you should be with people, how laid back you should be, how straight up or more with smiles. It's a different dynamic, and for someone who comes from a hustle environment, which is Canada, everyone is hustling there, it is such a slowdown and such a realization that not everyone is on the same schedule and no one will adjust to your hustle mentality and to your desire to move things faster. This country definitely operates on its own schedule, on its own time. No one is ever in a rush to get anywhere. No one is ever in a rush to get back to you or to process anything faster. You know, in Canada, and if you are familiar with the North American mentality, you can always insist, you can go back to whoever you're trying to deal with and ask for a faster resolution. Here, you cannot do that. People look at it, frown upon it, to be honest. They don't like to be rushed. They don't like to be bothered during the lunchtime. The life-work balance is mostly toward life. Work comes secondary to most Spaniards. That's something I learned here. There is a lot of bureaucracy. Spain is very much advanced in the last 2 years during the pandemic, and a lot of their facilities moved to online services, which is a huge improvement for them, because after coming from Canada, and if I were to compare, in Canada, I would say 80% of things are done online, and in Spain, it was always paperwork. You have to come with the paperwork, you have to come with the originals, you have to come in person, which actually reminds me of the times how it used to be where I'm from, Moldova. This is how my mother was dealing with any kind of day-to-day situation. She would go in person. It was not by phone, it was not by email. Everything was done in person. And I feel like Spain still has that kind of mentality to a very big degree. On the other hand, the food does taste better. I'm sorry to disappoint for those who think that Europe has the same approach to what they eat as Canada or North America. No, they don't. They are very careful with what they eat. My children went to school here, my babies, and I got a letter from the teacher telling me that I should really minimize the amount of sweets I give to my children when I send them to school, because they promote healthy eating. So she thought that I'm crazy that I put like waffles or chocolate milk for my kids. They're trying to minimize sugar intake so children are much more manageable. So she sent me a list of fruits I can send to school, like apple, pears, bananas, anything you want, just less chocolate and less sweets. It didn't feel good to a mother. It didn't feel good. But they very much promote that because there's a lot of markets. People shop in the markets. All of the farmers from around the cities, they come, and at least twice a week there's a market where you can buy fresh fruits and vegetables, and they do taste better. Another big realization is most of their facilities work half a day, and there's a lot of holidays. Every month, at least a couple of days, there's some kind of holiday, some kind of siesta, and someone is off. So people are very much laid back and very much concentrated on family life as opposed to any kind of business they're trying to run. So a big plus for someone like us, because we are hustlers, we have a higher chance of striving in this country because we're a little bit pushy. We want results a little bit faster, so we maybe bother people a little bit more, but we get what we need in the end. So in comparison to the way Spanish people operate, anyone from North America has a very high chance of succeeding because of our mentality and because of our hustler's personality, I would say. Prices, more manageable. And I'm looking now because I still have a lot of family in Canada, and every time I look at news, and not to say anything bad about Canada, it was my home for so many years. It's just that there's a reason why so many people are relocating and moving and trying to find more reasonable prices. It's virtually impossible to maintain a more or less middle-class lifestyle in Canada, in Toronto especially. But Europe, it's a bit different when it comes to that. Yes, their wages are smaller, but they have less expenses. Rent is much manageable, food is much more manageable, car insurance, everything else, all of their services. Another big thing that I learned, and I'm so grateful for this country, that their extracurricular activities prices are very good. Like, I have never spent so little on any kind of sports that my children do. My children do swimming, my children do dancing. All of my children were always enrolled in some kind of sports. In Canada, even 10 years ago, it used to cost me a lot. Here, it's very manageable and doable. You can have your child enrolled in at least 2 different sports. They charge between 10 to 12 euros an hour, which is much better than what Canada charges for sure. So yeah, you have to be bold. You have to really have the stamina for this kind of move. Because besides the fact that it is extremely hard on you as an individual, if you're moving just with your partner, then great, good for you. But if you're moving with your older children and younger children, their mental health and their adjustment, to some degree, it's your responsibility, because you decided that you want a better life-work balance, so you uprooted them and moved them countries. So I know it's a lot to take upon myself, but as a parent, I believe that we are responsible for our children's mental health and emotional well-being, especially when we move countries and we insist on them moving countries. So before you take on this big step, my advice would be to really analyze yourself and make sure that you are up for it, because it's not easy. And I'm sure it's gonna take a while until I feel and my family feels more or less at home here. And not to say anything negative, it's a beautiful country with a beautiful nature and weather, and people are so nice and welcoming, and everyone smiles, and you don't see many grumpy people. People are happier. In the end, I believe it does worth it if you move with a group of people. I would have never done this by myself if my family didn't do this. So if you are moving as a group of people, like I moved with my sister, with my parents, then that's definitely a step worth taking. But if it's just your family, I don't know, I would try to find, some kind of a community of people, someone else that wants to go through this process and wants to move from country to country. Please do comment if you have any questions, if there's any particular topic you would like for me to cover when it comes to moving from Canada to Spain. Any kind of questions, comment below, and I'll see you in my next video.